I often do that. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name's Jordan. I'm the Sustainability Officer at North Sydney Council. And tonight we're here to meet the new Joneses. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I'd just like to let you know that this webinar is being run in partnership with Ku-ring-gai tonight. The Ku-ring-gai Council has a number of different programs to reduce community emissions and to assist to electrify your home. So I'll pop in a link in the chat there, their net zero program. Also like to let you know that over the last few years, we're working with our neighbouring councils, including Lane Cove, and I know we've got a few people here from Lane Cove logging in tonight. So they've got a solar buyback program. So if you're interested in solar, purchasing solar, they've got a number of sessions coming up this month, and I'll also include the links in the chat there. So before we begin, I'd just like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Camaragal people, and pay our respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today, including those who may be in attendance at the webinar. So thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. A couple of housekeeping things before we start. We are recording today and we will put the webinar on YouTube on our council channel. Feel free to ask any questions you might have. Pop those in the Q&A. We're aiming to cover 3 video case studies tonight. So happy to answer questions along the way as we go. So pop those in the Q&A section. If you have any general comments, chat, any links to resources or anything like that, please add those in the chat section. Okay, now if you don't mind, I'd just like to spend a little bit of time discussing why we're running this webinar tonight. So at North Sydney Council, part of our 2030 sustainability strategy is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 65% from the 1996 levels. And the best way to do this is energy. So you can see from the left to right there, 78% of our national emissions are from energy, 60% of those are domestic, and within that domestic use, our consumption is 42% of households. So our households and what we do, what we purchase and how we use technology and things and live will have the biggest impact on our environmental footprint. So that's sort of how we're supporting North Sydney and our neighbouring community to reduce our emissions and why we're focusing on home electrification. We plan on doing this by sort of really focusing on 6 main things: active and electric transport, solar, home batteries, for those who don't have access to solar, green power, upgrading to induction cooktops, switching to reverse cycle aircon for heating, and replacing hot water, gas hot water or electric hot water with hot water heat pumps. So, and here's another sort of image from Rewiring Australia, from Saul Griffin's Rewiring Australia, just comparing over a 10-year period the running costs between gas petrol home versus an all-electric home. So yeah, huge difference there, and I think that that gap will continue as gas and petrol prices increase. Okay, thank you. Okay, so what are we doing tonight? We're meeting the new Joneses, and before we do that, I'd just like to introduce our 2 guests for tonight. So firstly, we've got Tamara Diamantina. We'll just spotlight you, Tamara. Where are you?
Needs no spotlight.
Hey, Tamara, how you going?
Hi, Jordan. Thank you for having myself and the new Joneses here, and thank you to everyone for coming.
You're welcome. So just quickly read your bio. So in 2010, you went to Antarctica to learn about climate change. You returned to launch Buy Nothing New Month in 2010 and the New Joneses in 2012. You The new Joneses promote a world without waste, where every choice we make is good for people and our planet. You're a 5-time Burning Man veteran. You're frequently booked to speak to the media, councils, schools, and corporates on sustainable living, climate change, circular economy, and your own Buy Nothing New Month program. So thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And our next guest is Andy Marlowe. Andy Marlowe is the director and architect at Envirotecture. Andy believes all people should live, work, and play in buildings that make them happy and healthy. His focus is ensuring people with reasonable budgets get into the best homes possible through a focus on health, comfort, and efficiency in all its meanings. Andy is a director at Envirotecture and Passive House Design and Construct, holds both bachelor's and master's degrees in architecture, is a certified passive house designer, and has extensive experience in sustainable design at a variety of scales. Thanks for joining us again tonight, Andy.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Jordan.
All right. So, as I mentioned today, what we're going to do is be looking at 3 different video case studies. So the first will be Tia and Murray. Tamara, did you sort of want to paint the picture of the first case study that we're going to be looking at?
Sure thing. Do you want me to give you a little bit of background on the new Joneses and why we chose the Electrify Everything message?
Actually, that would be good to start.
A bit of context for everyone.
Sure.
And thank you, Jordan. I'm coming to you all from Gadigal country. I'm usually on Wurundjeri country, the lands of the Kulin nations, but I'm here in Sydney at the moment. This is not my home, by the way. I'd just like to say something that's very close to my heart. I'm in someone else's space. If I was in my own space, everything would be secondhand and there would be just green plants everywhere. So this does not represent me. But I'm thrilled to be here. I want to give you a little bit of background. As Jordan said, I went to Antarctica in 2010 to learn about climate change. I had a background in PR. And when I learned about climate change and what was happening on our planet, I wanted to do the most immediate thing that I could do to get everyone's attention. And I thought if I could get everyone's attention, we'll be okay. People will start doing the things. It's a lot more complicated than that. But I started with a program called Buy Nothing New Month, in the belief that our wasteful consumption is driving climate change through our use of fossil fuels. That is true. However, I started to realise there are a lot of that follow the money, as people would say. There's a lot of money invested in fossil fuels and the wasteful consumption world. So I started getting kickback about Buy Nothing New Month I was launching in the city of Sydney with a Buy Nothing New house. We had the then Premier at the time saying Buy Nothing New's crazy. Everyone needs to get out there and shop more. This is going to kill the economy, etc. So I rebranded that program, which was a tiny house that we were installing in the city of Sydney, to showcase the circular economy, to get everyone understanding that we can make different choices in our lives. When we started getting kickback from the retailers and the Premier, I rebranded that to be the new Joneses, the idea of reframing that idea of keeping up with the Joneses. So we wanted to show a new normal where every choice we make is good for our people and our planet. So whether it's the stuff that we buy, the bank that we choose, the super fund that we invest our money with, the energy company we choose, the food we eat, how we get rid of our food, we could show all those things that we can be doing, simple switches that we can all do in our lives. We used a tiny house as a PR stunt for sustainable living. So that was the new Joneses. We started creating all electric homes and touring them around, showing people it's easy to live like this. Some of the things are expensive, some of the things are free, some will make you money, some will cost you money. Then cut forward to COVID, and then events got wiped out. So that's why we're here now with the new Joneses online EV road trip. With the new Joneses, we were always trying to showcase the most impactful actions that we could take. And so we were matched to the Sustainable Development Goals, and we had 10 things that everyone could do. In the Electrify Everything series, we've focused on the electrification message because, Jordan, as you showed in your great visuals, Rewiring Australia and Saul Griffith are simplifying that message of how, home electrification is the nearest term solution that we have to climate change. And everything has to be focused on energy. As Saul says in one of our clips that we're not showing tonight, keep cups and hemp bags are not going to cut it. It's energy. That's where we need to put our focus, which is why we've invested all our energy and all the funding that we received on this message of home electrification. So that's a little bit of background. I love this series that we've done because it takes us from a high-end build through to a single mum, Sophia, who on a low income was able to build herself a home that makes her money. Sophia's story was on the front page of That's Life, double page spread going, wow, look at my all electric, no gas home that makes me money. That was a great story. We're just about to watch Tia and Murray, who are neighbours in an apartment block in Naarm, where they've come together, and instead of neighbours fighting over the fence, they've all come together to collaborate and go, how do we get solar on our roof? So that's just a little bit of background on the whole series and why we've chosen all these different messengers for the message of home electrification, because there's something that most of us can do. Take it away, Tia and Murray.
Okay, thanks, Tamara. Okay, here we go. We'll bring up Tia Murray.
Slutsy, welcome back to season 3, the New Joneses EV road trip.
Okay, thunder.
I'm seeing your screen.
What are we
Jordan.
doing this season? I don't know.
We are electrifying everything.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm still just seeing your file. Is
Okay.
everyone seen the movies?
Okay, apologies everyone, just give me a sec.
You tested this beautifully before.
I did, and retested.
And retested. To be fair to Jordan, everyone, it's been tested and it has worked beautifully.
Here we go, try again.
Does that mean? We are meeting the people who have built or retrofitted their homes to be super energy efficient. Yeah. So they've insulated, they've done draft proofing, they have gone double glazing or secondary glazing. So they've reduced the amount of energy that they need to heat and cook and cool their homes. Mm-hmm. So they're saving money on their energy bills and they're much more comfortable at home. They've got enough gas, so they're not burning any fossil fuels in their home anymore. Bye-bye. And then they have gone solar, so any of the energy that they do need to heat and cook and cool is coming from renewable sources.
So where are we going today, Tam?
We're going to meet Tia and Murray, and they are neighbours in an apartment block who have done what people think is the impossible, and they have all come together to get shed solar on their shed roof. But Tia's also got one step extra, and she's gone all electric, so it means all of her power is coming from...
She got off the gas.
Oh my gosh, Slatsy, you are getting it.
I get it. And you know what? Oh, we're from Tigerland, fighting to remember Tiger. There's a plant in there. Slats every day coming at you with no hat.
Tia and Murray shared solar for apartments.
Clapperoo.
So much pressure when you say action.
Who are you and why am I interviewing you?
My name is Tia and I live in Richmond, Victoria in an apartment building from the 1930s.
My name is Murray Griffin. We're here on Wurundjeri country in the city of Yarra, and you're at our apartment block of 18 units.
A whole bunch of the owners in this building got together and got solar panels installed
On our apartment block rooftop.
You're also here because I recently went all electric in this apartment. So no gas, just electricity and powered by solar also.
Murray, how did you get so many owners to agree to take the solar step?
This apartment block has 18 units, so there's 18 owners, and owners have put a lot of work into making this a more livable and enjoyable apartment block for people to be in. This is really another step on that journey. So we have quite a good relationship amongst the various apartment owners, quite a good relationship on the Owners Corporation Committee, and that made it possible for us to steer through the somewhat complicated but not impossibly complicated process of securing agreement to install solar on the rooftop and then to give people the opportunity to opt in.
Why was going solar in the apartment complex so important?
So firstly, there's a big economic benefit. Everybody, I think, knows that that's the case. Everybody knows that if they put in solar PV, they'll save lots of money. The other factor is climate change. We've all experienced climate change and we've all seen the impact of it, the devastating impact of it. Of course, we know that in the scheme of things, this is only a small step. It's 10 solar PV systems on a block of 18. But in the scheme of things, even small steps matter.
Tia, with rebates and interest-free green loans, how much did it actually cost going solar for your apartment?
Well, the solar panels cost $5,000, but I received $1,400 worth of rebates, and I also got $1,400 of interest-free loan from Solar Victoria. So I paid about $2,000 upfront, which I think is not that much because it's given me a safer home, it's a healthier home, and it ups the value of my resale value in the future.
What were your energy bills before the apartment complex went solar, and what are they now?
Our energy bills have gone down by at least 40%. And I think anybody who puts in solar PV can expect savings of that order.
I was paying around $98 a month, and now I pay $28 a month. That's a huge saving.
And that's a system that gives you much cheaper power, a very comfortable home, a higher level of resale value, and opens the door to other opportunities. For example, doing what Tia has done and getting off gas entirely.
Gas has been compared to being like living with a smoker, and also linked to things like asthma. Was that one of your reasons for getting off the gas?
That is one of the reasons, but not the only reason. I've always been afraid of having flammable gas in my home. I don't like the hissing noise that it makes when you turn the gas knob, don't like igniting it. So it is safer when you go all electric, and it's also healthier, obviously. And also I went all electric because since we just installed the solar panels, I thought, why not make use of that and really maximize the power that's generated by the solar panels.
So Tia, tell me about electric induction cooking versus cooking with gas.
I love my new induction cooktop actually because it heats up faster. It's safer because I won't have an open flame in my home. It's healthier, obviously, because you don't have flammable gas going around in your home. And it's also easier to clean.
So you got off the gas. What's the process for getting your gas disconnected?
It was so simple, actually. I just got in touch with my energy provider and I told them I want to close my gas account. And in a matter of days, they sent someone in to literally remove the meter and cap the pipe. And it was done in like less than a week.
How much have you saved by cutting your connection to mains gas?
About $250 a year.
That's amazing. Murray, this is where the challenge comes in.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. In 60 seconds or less,
Yes.
why should and how do apartment complexes go solar?
There are two reasons why people should definitely at least consider it, and that's the savings that they can make on their power bills and the chance to participate in the crucial struggle against climate change. In terms of the how, it's a matter of following standard procedures for getting big projects completed at your apartment block. And really what you are doing is building a coalition of the willing, those within the apartment block who are interested in participating. And you also need to retain the support of those who at this particular time don't want to participate, because you need their acceptance that the project can proceed. So really it's a matter of consulting widely, of taking everybody with you, of engaging with everybody, and then allowing people to make their own decisions.
Tia, in 60 seconds or less, tell me, how do apartment owners go solar?
Well,
Your time
wait,
starts
not ready.
now.
First of all, get off gas. And second of all, if you want to get solar panel in your building, I would recommend talking to your neighbors. I know it's not possible for everyone. Some people don't get along with their neighbors, but try and see, can you get your neighbors together and talk about it? Can you raise it at the next AGM? Can you talk to the committee? I think everyone just needs to give it a shot. It may or may not work, but all you got to do is try.
Murray, some renters in this building are obviously benefiting from their landlords having gone solar. I rent. How would I start the conversation with my landlord or my real estate agent to get this process started?
Well, Slats, the first step is to talk to your landlord or real estate agent.
Express that you're interested in installing solar panels, and they might be interested too.
If they're not, don't worry, all is not lost. You can get plenty of tips on what to do to use energy more efficiently.
I would go to the newjoneses.com
newjoneses.com.
I see it.
because there's heaps of tricks in there. From renters to homeowners, there's something for everyone.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. You too.
Murray, thank you very much. This
No
has
worries.
been just fantastic.
Thanks, Slats. It was great.
Brilliant. So just put everyone's spotlight there. Tamara, what really stood out when you visited that building? It sort of comes across in the video, but is there anything that sort of stood out to you?
I think that these Tia and Murray and their apartment block, they're everyday people. They're not hardcore climate activists or anything like that. And they've just done a massively positive thing for their bank balance because, as you see through Tia's bills, she's saving money. The health element that Tia has had in her building from getting off gas. But I think for me, it was super heartwarming to see the collaboration that they were able to achieve. This small apartment. I've been in a few different apartments and I've raised it, and often people go, oh, solar's too hard. There's been raised. There will often be people in the building who raise it and they're interested, and then everyone sort of kicks it around and goes, it's too hard. So I love how Tia and Murray just show what they did. It's conversation, it's collaboration, and it's like anything that's tricky. Like, it's going to be hard to get apartment owners on board to build a retaining wall or whatever you're going to do. Just keep trying. And so I thought that theirs was an inspiring story of these are not extraordinary people, they're everyday people who have just had a big win for their bank balance and for our planet. So I loved their piece. It was very everyday people having a win.
Yep. What about you, Andy? Anything sort of stand out? And have you helped any of your clients with getting off the gas at all?
From the video perspective, I thought the best thing was that they did it. And that you found them and got to tell the story, because it is, like you say, it is tricky. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and it takes perseverance. And seeing someone else having got there before is just inspiring. That's obviously
It is, isn't it? We can't be what we don't see.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly. So it's lovely just to look at someone else and go, oh, thank God I don't have to be the very first person. Which would be nice. In terms of getting people off gas, we've been on that bandwagon for quite some time, for all the reasons that you've both already iterated and that the Rewiring Australia is trying to pull off as well. It makes sense on every level. Gas was a fine choice at the moment. It was a fine choice. That moment has well and truly passed by decade or two, depending on who you want to talk to. So and it's the barriers, the biggest issues that we have probably are resistance to induction cooking, which only comes from people who've never used an induction cooktop. So that's getting people to experiment with the things is key. It's certainly what got me hooked. Then the other ones are dull, and dull but important. Getting off instant gas, hot water can be tricky from a space point of view, depending on the nature of the building. And in some places that's really hard, but there are solutions. And again, it's why seeing people pull it off is so important, because we design stuff all the time, and some days it's really difficult, but other days you're like, we've done 6 versions of this already, and then you just it becomes second nature. That's how we learn.
Yep, definitely.
There's a question popped up tomorrow if you want to. I don't know if you know the answer about how they divvy up the power between the 18 units. I assume they're separate systems.
This is, okay, sorry, I'm not seeing those questions. This is different to shared solar. So there's in Victoria, there's a group, I'm not aligned with them, but there's a group I think called Illume, I think that's their name, where they actually have a shared solar system. These guys didn't do that. They've all got, I think, their own solar systems, and they agreed to share the roof. So it's not like they all got together and they're sharing the same solar between each of the apartments. They all went and applied for their own solar rebates through Solar Vic, I think, to have their own system. We tried to get one of those groups where they were sharing a system that then spreads it between. It's possible, but we didn't have that case study ready yet. But I think there are a number of them that group have successfully done. Some of them are in New South Wales, some of them are in Victoria. But as you rightfully pointed out, Andy, there are these things happening everywhere, but finding them or finding the people willing to talk that's the first step as well. But that's definitely possible, and that system exists and it's being used. We just didn't showcase that where a group has the one system and they share that solar power amongst them. Yeah.
I mean, I think we've got over 30 strata apartment buildings now in North Sydney with solar, and there's several now with the Illume system as well. So they're popping up more regularly now than even a few years ago. So it's becoming fairly common, at least to cover the common area energy usage, and then sometimes some buildings, if they got the capacity, will install that Illume system. Or the alternative is, like you mentioned, Tamara, they're just having their own roof space, which works for some buildings as well, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we might move to Dr. Annabelle.
Yeah, which is great because I had a couple of comments based on Andy's comments around the gas scenario. Andy, you were saying it can be challenging getting people want gas for their cooking and to get them to try induction. I understand, and I think that there's a lag of old electric stoves that were a bit shit, pardon my language. They weren't great, the old electric ones. We had them when I was growing up. It was terrible. And so gas was like this immediate fabulous source. New induction is very different. In a previous life, when I was doing PR for restaurants, I went into, I don't think he'll mind me quoting because I asked him if he'd be involved in this series. Jeff Lindsay was a massive name in Australian cooking. He still is, but he had an incredible restaurant. Was it Hatted? I can't remember. In Melbourne, called Pearl, his restaurant was. And in 2004 or 5, Jeff took me into his kitchen at Pearl, which had all induction. He said, this is unbelievable. We got off the gas. This was nothing to do with the environment. So this was nearly 20 years ago. He said, now my kitchen is calm. It's cooler. Everyone's not swearing at each other because it's not a hot, sweaty, loud mess. So he was raving about induction for cooking, for the money saving of his business, because everyone was in a better frame of mind. There wasn't staff turnover because everything was better with induction when they got off gas. That was nothing to do with climate change or the environment, and that was nearly 20 years ago. In that gas space, I myself, unfortunately, where I live, I rent, and we have huge gas burners. I choose to use my electric sandwich cooktop, my sandwich press to cook everything. I love it because it's healthier. It takes no oil. It's amazing. So there are little hacks that you can do if you're renting and you can't get off gas. Andy, you also mentioned the challenge of getting off gas for your heat pump hot water system if there's not space. So that's something that I wasn't aware of until I went down that route myself. I bought a heat pump hot water in my home that I own that I don't live in. It's a little apartment, but I needed a bigger space. So I put in a heat pump hot water system when our gas blew up. And now my tenants are the very lucky recipients of that. They said their bills are way over, like half their energy bill now. Unfortunately, I'm on the flip side where I rent. My landlords now are just replacing the gas hot water with gas hot water. So I've got a broken heart because I sent them all this information, and if I can't convince them, who can? But it's still challenging. Like, I think, yeah, so there's always going to be some challenges and hurdles. But this next episode with Dr. Annabelle, I think is hugely inspiring. These two moved into their home, their energy and gas bills were $400 a month in this old home. They retrofitted, they did everything. They did the draft proofing, they did the double glazing, and now they call themselves extravagant energy users because they've got a heat pump hot water system. Everything is powered by renewable energy. So it's quite funny. Annabelle said they'd have their towels and their sheets strung up everywhere because they didn't use a dryer like myself, never use it. Whereas she said now they just dry anything because it's the energy that they're using is almost nothing. So they call themselves, extravagant environmentalists. So it was super positive. And I love the fact that Dr. Annabelle and Alex, her partner, would interview with us because she's a medical doctor and she is saying that one of the biggest things that you can do in your home for the health of yourself and your children is to get off gas, because gas is linked to asthma, the particulates that release out into the atmosphere. It's equivalent to living in the home with a smoker. So if you're doing it just from the health benefit, let alone the cost savings, and of course then the environmental benefits. So Dr. Annabelle's is another wonderful example of people out there living like the new Joneses and doing these things that are good for our people, our planet, and in their case, their pockets.
Sounds good. Well, let's have a listen to Dr. Annabelle and take a look at what she did. Okay.
Welcome back, Flatsy, to season 3. The
Jordan?
new Joneses. Just seeing your files,
Can't
Jordan.
believe you wanted me back, but I'm
I
very
still
glad to be
okay.
Here we are. We're learning how to
Having the same problems, are we?
same as last time. But you got there very quickly.
All right. How's that? Is that working now?
Yes, well done.
All right. Here we go.
Welcome back, Flatsy, to season 3, the new Joneses EV road trip.
Can't believe you wanted me back, but I'm very glad to be here.
Here we are. We're learning how to electrify everything in our
Everything?
homes. What this means is we are going to get our homes off gas.
Get off the gas.
We're going to retrofit and rebuild and build new homes that hardly need any energy to heat and cool them.
Reduce the need for energy.
And then the energy we do need is going to be coming from renewable sources.
Get it from renewables.
Easy. So now we're going to go and meet Dr. Annabelle and her partner Alex,
Right.
who are going to show us how they've done exactly this with an old build, how they've retrofitted to get off gas, reduce the need for energy, and then make sure the energy they do use comes from clean renewable sources.
Well, morning is broken, so step on the gas.
This is an electric car, Slats.
How much food do you eat?
And the zucchinis are this big. Would you like to be in this position, Alex?
Rolled up, are we?
Dr. Annabelle, take one.
Who are you and why am I interviewing you?
My name's Annabelle, I'm a doctor, and you're here because my partner Alex and I made some sustainable upgrades to our house, and we'd love to tell you more about it.
Where are we? What are we doing here? Why are we doing it?
We're in Brunswick East in the inner suburbs of Melbourne. We bought this house 3 years ago now. We had two goals. We were very cold and we wanted to be more comfortable, and at the same time I think climate crisis was front of mind, and so we're really interested in doing that in a way that was as sustainable as possible.
Annabelle, your home went from outdated to looking around absolutely outstanding. Can you run me through some of the things that you did?
We fixed up the insulation and topped that up in the ceiling and under the floor. We draft proofed, so the window in our bathroom was just open slats.
Yes.
No relation. We cut a bit of perspex and siliconed it in to block that off, so we didn't just have a breeze whistling in. We got heavy curtains and blinds and seals under the doors, and we had old vents in the walls that were sort of a historical thing for reducing carbon monoxide poisoning. But once we were able to get rid of the gas appliances, which was our next step, then we were able to shut those off to seal it up better too. So the house had no heating or cooling. It just had a gas fireplace in one of the rooms. So we installed split systems in this main room and then in the study and the bedroom.
Split systems. Can you explain the split system that you got?
So split systems, air cons, heat pumps, they're all the same thing. So not only do they cool your house, but they're also, which I didn't realise, the most efficient and cheapest way to heat your house too.
So you upgraded your windows, your cooking, your cooling. How did you pay for all these comfy upgrades?
So we started with the heating because we were cold. The split systems cost around $1,000 to $2,000. We also got rid of the old gas fireplace so that we could pop some candles in the little nook.
Yeah.
We upgraded the hot water system, being able to switch off the gas and stop paying gas bills and stop paying the $1 a day connection fee as well was a big motivator so that we could run our hot water off the solar power instead. So there are a number of government incentives for things like the solar panels and the heat pump hot water that we were able to qualify for, which was great. On top of that, our mortgage provider offers a green loan scheme.
Can you explain green loans for me?
If you satisfy a number of criteria, certain upgrades, then they'll offer you a discount on your interest rate. And when we were doing it, we calculated that it was going to save us $14,000 over 5 years if we met these criteria. So we were like, great, that's our budget.
Shut up and give me the tick boxes. I love it.
Yeah.
I've heard heat pumps for heating water that can actually save 80 to 90% of the cost.
Yeah, it does. It uses the electricity very efficiently. I think it's 4 times more efficient than a standard electric hot water, and of course even more efficient than gas too. So it's definitely the cheapest way, and you can run them during the day so that they're taking solar power to power them.
There's lots of easy ways to make our homes more comfortable and cheaper to run way before we get to solar.
Mm-hmm.
What are they?
Draft proofing, so sealing up any gaps between walls and floors, or putting seals on the windows so that the draft isn't getting through. If you don't have that cold wind whistling in or the hot wind whistling in, then you're a lot more comfortable with very minimal effort. Things like insulation and draft proofing, they mean that you're holding on to the heat or the cool that you're making. So they're actually the cheapest and most effective way to green up your home.
What's so good about having a comfy home and no energy bills? Energy bills before and after, what's the go there?
So gas and electricity in our first month was $400, and now our bills are in credit. The power company pays us.
And even when you were paying $400, was it warm when you want it to be or cold?
No, we were miserable. It was chilly.
What's 3 words you'd describe your home before?
Drafty, inefficient, and it was still nice.
Now fast forward, 3 words to describe your home now.
Cozy, comfortable, and efficient.
Tell me, gas stoves and asthma.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a link between a gas stove in the household and increased rates of childhood asthma. I think a 12% raise. That's equivalent to having a smoker in the home. So that was certainly something that we considered too.
So from a health sake, it's worth getting off gas?
Absolutely. So there's the direct effects of burning gas in the house, particulate pollution, nitrous oxide, and the risk of carbon monoxide from gas heaters, for example. So, why are we still got naked flames in our homes? We've got better technology and we can run it off the sun and the wind backed up by batteries. So there's definitely health reasons, let alone the health impacts of the climate crisis in terms of floods, fires, heat waves. There's a lot of good reasons for health.
Yeah. Are you extravagant energy users now that you generate your own energy and efficient through your efficient appliances?
I had always assumed that to be sustainable was about sacrifice and discomfort, but the technology is so good now that you can be more comfortable and even more extravagant with energy compared to before. We got a clothes dryer, for example, which I never would have thought was an efficient thing to do, but now with a heat pump dryer, they use so little power, and the power they are using is from the solar. So, we just chuck the sheets in the dryer instead of stringing them up everywhere.
What are some of the stuff?
Okay, not sure what's happened there. Sorry about that, folks.
Everyone needs to get a witch's hat.
The sheets in the dryer.
See if we can.
Around your stove?
The induction stove is so great to use, but it did take us a couple of months to figure out the details around getting it installed. In the meantime, we were able to get a cheap $50 plug-in induction cooktop, and that was a great interim solution. It means we could close our gas account 6 months sooner and stop paying those fees. And it's a great solution for renters and people who aren't in a position to change their cooktop straight away. But induction's great though, because it's so quick and it's so also really easy to clean because it's completely flat. And it's great to use as extra bench space when you're not cooking.
You've come this far, Annabelle, congratulations. In 60 seconds or less, tell me how, why, and how much money you've saved going energy efficient all electric.
Yep.
Your time starts now.
So how? Well, we got off gas and we in favour of efficient electric alternatives. Why? To be more comfortable and healthy in our home. And I think we estimated we're saving about $3,000 a year of energy bills because we're not paying a gas bill, we've got tiny electricity bills, and then now we're barely paying for any petrol either.
And you've got time to spare. Annabelle, where should I get started?
Well, I understand there's a resource being developed by the New Joneses, the Tick Off 10, to guide you. You can start with the easy wins, the simple and cheap things, and then gradually work your way through the list. It took us 18 months, bit by bit, but it's very rewarding and financially and ethically.
Have you got a pen that you're not using anymore?
A pen?
I've got to get started ticking boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Annabelle, thank you so much. And Alex, appreciate you letting us in your beautiful home. And I'm going to go and watch butterflies in your backyard.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, we might start with Andy with your comments first. What sort of stood out to you watching that video?
It's the health stuff. The health stuff's the part that bamboozles me most about, you know, the pushback around getting off gas in particular. It doesn't make any sense. Health is everything. The purpose of buildings, when you step back to why we build the things at all, is for health reasons. Otherwise, we just wouldn't live in them. And we keep putting toxic things inside. So it's lovely to find someone who's got a science-based background talking about that. And yeah, for me, it's health's most of the reasons we do most of the things that we do in the work that we do. Because when buildings don't work in any of the senses, the health impacts are huge. And at a societal level, we all pay for that because we have a hospital system that's looking after everyone, which is good that we have a hospital system, but it could probably do with a bit of a breather. And yeah, getting off gas is a part of that. So for me, that's definitely the take-home message. Definitely the take-home message.
What about the her insulation and draft proofing, and is that, do you think with what she did she'd need to add anything around ventilation, or is that when you get to a higher level, sort of passive design sort of stuff?
Look, it was the part that was interesting was her comment around the bathroom and covering up the basically the hole in the wall as it was, which is very smart. She didn't talk about what they did about ventilation, but being a smart lady, I'm pretty sure she would have done some research and ensured that they've got some sort of fan to remove the moisture from that space. If she hasn't, it would probably have gone moldy, at which point she would have done her research and sorted out the fan. So look, the key thing is sealing up houses is really good from a comfort point of view. And if you want it to be good from a health point of view, then you do need, we term it reliable ventilation. We mostly prefer fans because fans are very reliable. Whereas humans, so you can rely on opening windows, but humans are inherently unreliable. It's just our nature. And therefore we'll, there's many ways to do it, but basically you need to make sure you get a good flush of outdoor air through your house fairly frequently in order to keep the moisture levels down, humidity levels down, so that you don't get condensation or mold happening. And obviously in the middle of winter, and, they're Melbourne. So, much as, it's a bit of a thing, but, Melbourne is colder. It's colder for longer. And in the middle of winter, you don't want to open your window for 20 minutes every 3 hours, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning. So.
Yep, great. Thanks, Andy. Tamara, what about you? What stood out when you visited their house?
Absolutely, the fact that for such a long time, I think all we've heard about is solar. We need solar, solar, solar. But these guys in their home retrofitting, I think solar was the last thing that they did. I think the message about energy efficiency and making our homes much more efficient so that we need less energy hasn't been strong, I think. Like, it's out there for sure, but it's not the thing that we get pummeled with. Everywhere you see, oh, I need to get solar. But many people I don't think understand the importance of insulating your floors, your walls and your ceilings, like putting that blanket around so your home needs less energy to heat it and to cool it. But then also the draft proofing. So many homes that I go into, like, people have got gaps under their doors, in their door frames and in their windows, or not having double glazing, but just plugging up all those things. I think that's out there, but it's not as sort of sexy as going to solar. So I think what was really clear with what Dr. Annabelle and Alex did was they did all those non-sexy things, and themselves, like using glue guns, getting down, plugging the gaps and doing all that stuff, doing the insulation, not the big ticket item. So by the time you've reduced the need for the energy, then you only need a small amount of solar on your roof if you're going that way. So that came across really clearly, that there's so many little things to do before you have to do the big thing.
And I suppose they're the more affordable things too. And, we've got 50% of residents in North Sydney are renters. So that would be probably a really good start for them too.
Blinds and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
We actually have an episode that we're not showing tonight that is specifically for renters who have very little wriggle room and the sorts of things that they do. Like the blinds outside and all those sorts of things, even where he's got a lot of concrete in his paved area and all the radiant heat that comes in from there, like putting plants there. I love the fact that this guy who's a renter, he talks about planting a tree everywhere he goes, and he says he's not going to see the benefit of that. This is like a Chinese philosophical quote literally embedded in this man, Ben, who we interview. He's a renter and he's planted a tree because he says someone will get the shade of that tree and that's going to cut their energy bill. Like the things that we can do. That planting a tree also gets mentioned in the next episode that we're doing, which is with Richard Keach, who is like, this is the most uber energy efficient all electric home you'll see. But also it's not huge. I love the fact that it's not an excessive big ego build. It's a beautiful eco build.
Yep, great. Okay, we might take a look. If you do have any questions, just feel free to add them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to them. Looking like we might have a few minutes to answer some questions after, so feel free at any time. Other than that, we'll move on to Richard's home.
Good luck, Jordan.
See if I can get this right. The pressure's on. Third time lucky.
Done so well.
Okay, here we go. Now I can't find it.
I'm just letting you know I can't see anything in the chat.
Okay, no worries. No, it's all right. Yep, thank you. Here we go.
Welcome back to season 3 of The New Joneses, EV on tour with my friend and confidant, Tam Tamagotchi. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. Welcome to season 3. I'm super excited about this one. This season, we're going to save money and save the planet.
Who, Janet?
The planet slaps.
Oh, yeah, planet. Gotcha.
Save money, save the planet. So this season, we are meeting people in their homes who've worked out how to heat and cool their homes with a lot less money.
Yep.
Making their homes more comfy.
Okay.
More energy efficient and healthier, but at the same time, because they're using less energy, they are cooling the climate. We're going to electrify everything this season. Are you ready? Dave Martin, take 1.
Lucas, take 1.
Richard Keach.
Keep saying yes.
It's Luke. Sorry.
Lucas is fine. I like Lucas.
Who are you and why am I interviewing you?
I'm Dave Martin and I'm a builder.
I'm Richard Keach, homeowner, energy efficiency consultant.
Slats, I'm the building designer for this project.
And you're interviewing me to talk about this beautiful home here in magical Cape Patterson, which we call Paradise.
You're at my house, a great house that shows all electric efficient houses really well.
Where are we? What are we doing here? And why are we doing it?
We're at wonderful Cape Patterson on the Bunurong coast, South Gippsland, Victoria, Australia. We're talking about all efficient electric homes.
So Dave, what is an energy efficient all-electric home?
An energy efficient electric home is a home that is high performance, so really well insulated, holds in the heat in winter, holds out the heat in summer.
All electric, meaning no other sources of energy aside from electricity, no gas, no firewood. And that's important because we want to get off fossil fuels.
And then also has really low energy use, so solar PV, induction or electric cooktops, heat pump hot water systems, just really efficient, low cost, low energy running items.
Energy efficiency comes about through a really careful design process. If the building is designed to work with the landscape rather than just be plonked on the landscape, it's going to last the test of time. We're going to have a home that can be resilient even when the weather gets more extreme. Like this home pretty much runs almost all of the year without any help. When you're talking to your designer or your builder, you need to ask, is my home going to be pretty much self-sufficient most of the time? And the answer should be yes.
Aussie homes are called glorified tents by some people in that they're badly insulated and they're expensive to heat and cool. What's the better alternative for people wanting to, save money on heating and cooling their homes?
Draft proofing is fundamental and really overlooked.
I grew up in a weatherboard home, had no insulation, timber floors, drafty, and I remember basically sitting on the gas heater in the morning in winter.
Insulation improvements, a lot of people take for granted what insulation they have, but often it doesn't work properly. And glazing is really important to get right. And going from single glaze to double glaze takes windows from being really terrible to just being really bad. And then we can get them into good territory by adding good window coverings as well.
So blinds and drapes.
Yeah, blinds and drapes and shades on the outside if need be.
So what is so good about having no energy bills and being cool in the summer and warm in the winter?
I think the answer's hidden in the question there, Slats. So what's not to like about not having bills?
You're just a lot more comfortable, you're living healthier from there. You're less reliant on the overall system. So I think it was last year there was around here like 4 days without power. Where this home, it has its own battery bank, so they're super self-sufficient.
It's going to save me money in the long term, but where does one get the dough to start with?
There's no reason why, if you're on a really tight budget, you can't just try and get that north aspect in. Insulated is a really cost-effective way of getting good performance of the building and getting some nice crossflow ventilation.
People don't realise it. A tree that you grow at the east or west end of your house could save you thousands of dollars in energy bills because it will give you lovely summer shading.
Just by making more careful choices at the time you build, it doesn't have to be necessarily more expensive at all.
Richard, you've crunched the numbers and you're saying that you can save about 5K a year through energy efficiency. Talk me through it, brother.
For this house, as an example, we're only using about 1.7 kilowatt hours a day from the grid. We've got a surplus of about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year thanks to the solar. So we've got 10 kilowatt hours of battery. But a battery is not necessary unless you're worried about grid reliability. I actually don't recommend a battery in the first instance to most people. It's kind of the icing on the cake. For people that make the house all electric, get off gas, you've got the avoided gas costs as savings, you've got solar on your roof offsetting a lot of your grid consumption, and so overall you've got less energy used overall. Yep. and much lower energy bills. So, and then even offset your petrol costs if you move to an EV. So, and the trick in doing that is to try and use as much of the energy that you generate on your roof within the house as it's being generated, rather than exporting it all to the grid.
So look, when people come to you around designing their homes, what questions should they be asking?
I think that it's about how we can use spaces in a new and creative way. So some people build too many rooms and we're just sort of piling space on space on space. And what we really need to think about is build smaller. Why? Because you save a lot of money now, you save a lot of money on the energy costs running the building and on the maintenance costs. So it's a win-win-win.
So Luke, what do you say to the question, where's the payback?
When my clients ask that, I would say, you don't expect your floorboards to pay themselves back or the bench top. If you've got a house that can't deal with the climate, then You know, that's a much worse payback than being able to sit in your home and be comfortable. That's sort of backwards thinking. I think we've got to look forwards.
Richard, you've been a contributor to the Facebook page, My Efficient Electric Home. What would you say is driving all these people to make energy efficient upgrades to their homes?
The biggest motivator is comfort. When people find themselves too cold in winter, it really focuses the mind on trying to fix that. Then energy costs would be another driver, and a small proportion are interested for environmental reasons, but it's mostly comfort and energy costs.
Richard, what's the healthiest, most affordable option for heating my home during the winter?
People often don't realise that something they may already have at the moment in an air conditioner is actually the best way to heat a house. So a reverse cycle split system, for example, is actually much more efficient and less expensive than heating with gas.
Can you explain a heat pump to me?
Reverse cycle split systems are an example of a heat pump, and a heat pump's the technology in a fridge. It's also found in new heat pump hot water services.
My gas stove. At home at the moment, I've got a plug-in electric stove. I mean, is that a good alternative for someone looking to get started?
What you're doing is going, okay, what I can do is I'm not going to support that side of things of the gas, and I'm going to move to electric. So I think the electric cooktop, or you know, your plug-in inductions, is a really good kind of 1%er that can really start that shift happening.
At the My Efficient Electric Home group, we have a motto: we don't burn stuff here, and I think that's important to help reframe the way we look at energy. In a generation, kids will look back and say, "You really burn gas in the kitchen?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?"
From apartment dweller to, you know, mansion owner, where do you get started?
Number one would be these guys, the new Joneses. They're some really good educational stuff, really easy to watch, and it's everything from really tight basic budget freebies right to if you've got $1 trillion. Your electricity provider, I think, is a great one. You can really source a sustainable electricity provider now. I think that's quite an easy change to do. I think that 1%er of switching from a gas cooktop to an electric cooktop. And then there's the other thing to, if say apartment living, is drapes and blinds. You can get different insulated drapes and blinds.
In 60 seconds or less, tell me how and why you went energy efficient all electric. Your time starts now.
I think what we need to do as society or humanity is look that kind of 7 generations ahead. Look at the environment, look at our kids, and so on from there. The less impact we can have on the planet, and we try and work in harmony with the planet, is better. And I think moving to an electric, better performing home is a great kind of movement towards having kind of no harm and starting to live in harmony with the environment.
This is a great example of something that's in our immediate interest to do in the long term, and it saves us money in the short term. It sends a strong message as well to get off gas.
It just made sense. An all-electric home, an efficient home, is so vitally important.
Thanks so much.
Great to have a chat.
Love it, Dave. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Richard, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tamara, we might start with you. Thoughts on Richard's home when you went and visited?
Rich and Kate's home. I feel like we should include Kate because she was
True,
very
okay.
involved in the design and everything. Richard is an energy efficiency geek guru, which is why we had him speaking on behalf of him, Kate. What I love about this is such an eco, not an ego home. It is so comfortable. You walk in and it is beautiful, but it's not huge. And Luke, who was the building designer, touched on this, and it also harks back to when the new Joneses used to tour around with a tiny house. We weren't trying to get everyone to move into tiny houses. I couldn't live in a tiny house, but the idea of that was to show just how much we can do in a small space. Aussies and Americans, we build the biggest homes in the world. Doesn't just mean these huge houses. It means we're taking up the land, you know, the footprint where there could be trees, where there could be gardens, where we could be growing more stuff. And we're building these huge houses which take more materials to build them, more energy to heat and cook and cool them. And the bigger the home, the more stuff we buy to put in them and to fill them. So what I love about this home, it's so eco and not ego. It's unreal. It's beautiful. there's light coming through, all biophilic design. There's nature everywhere, but it's not huge. It's small, but gorgeous. It feels really spacious. So that was a thing that really struck me. Richard, of course, he would be one of the most energy efficient, knowledgeable people in Australia. So this home is a great example of all that knowledge embedded into one home. I loved what Luke, the building designer, said about growing a tree. That's going to create more shade. I think we've become so disconnected with the vital importance of trees and nature. Where I used to live in Naarm, I lived in a suburb called Toorak. It's the greenest suburb in Melbourne, no doubt. It's cooler in summer. It's about 5 degrees cooler because there's so many trees. There's just so much nature. So I love that Luke touched on that. I also love that Dave Martin, who has been involved in lots of the new Joneses building projects over the years, talked about the simple thing that we can all do. If you can't build an incredible home like that, like many of us can't, change your energy company. There are energy companies out there where your money and your bill is going to support clean energy instead of fossil fuel energy. And that's a small change that we can all make.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tamara. Andy, what about you? First impressions?
It's a good looking building, and that really helps in telling a good story, I think. Can't get away from that, and it is lovely.
No, definitely.
Yeah, look, size is everything. Size is affordability as well. And I think a lot of the discussion that the wider Australian society is having about affordability, about housing, it's not all about size, but size is a hell of an influence on these things, and we like to think that those things are shifting. The fact the cost of building's gone through the roof has definitely helped because it's an incentive to build less. So it's definitely part of the solution. And the biggest selling point for us really on that front is that you can still spend the same amount of money, but you can get way better quality, and therefore you're effectively you end up trading off between one or the other. If you want size, then you'll get less quality, or vice versa. And in the people that we see through our day-to-day, like they're seeking the quality, and therefore the questions about size become, well, how big can it be, or what can we do to make this bit work better or harder? And it's the efficiency. It's what, when we talk about efficiency in all its meanings, how can you make 4 meters by 4 meters work really, really, really hard for you so that it's enough for whatever the task may be? And therefore, efficiency sort of can permeate in a whole series of different ways. And that's, resource use and energy use, all of that stuff. So, and when it comes together, it's just beautiful.
Yep.
Andy, I'm sure you'd be able to quote whoever it was that did the study, but I used to quote this all the time at the new Joneses at our tiny house, that they had done studies on footprint in homes, and I mean actual footprints, not your environmental footprint, where your feet went, and that most people were using 20% of their home 80% of the time. So we were using a tiny amount of our home mostly, and then there was all this other space. Of course, there's not everyone, but that's what they were quoting as far as just this wastage of these huge places that we were building. This used to always really strike me in the face. I had an auntie who lived in the mainland of Venice in Italy, and I went and visited her. She was in a tiny apartment, but because they had so little space to work with, this home was there's nothing to do with energy. It was more use of space. So efficient. Like they had draining racks over the sink. So they would, instead of stacking their dishes on the side because they didn't have that space, they had design where the draining racks were over the sink, so they dry there, but that was also where they would store all their dishes and the glasses and all that sort of stuff. They just had to think better because they had less space to work with. And I think in Australia, because we've got so much space, we're very lazy with design, like landfill, because we've been able to go, we'll just build another tip and throw all our rubbish over there. We haven't been clever about how do we create less rubbish because we've just had space for it.
One of my business partners has basically a very nice hobby in building and designing camping vehicles, and he's done God knows how many over the years. And it's a lesson in how do I cram basically everything my house does into the smallest possible footprint so I can drag around the smallest box on the back of the most efficient vehicle I can, so I can see as much of this beautiful country as efficiently as possible. And it's amazing. It really is. It's a really good design challenge, which is mostly why he does it, and he likes building stuff too. So.
And do you think good design, good sustainable building design is becoming a bit more mainstream these days? Are clients coming to you a bit more knowledgeable about what they want and what they're after, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, definitely. I mean, we are very we're in a very lucky and unusual position because of the nature of the people who come and knock on our door to start with. But the key thing that we've noticed is that our company's been around for 25 years. Over that time, those initial conversations that you have, they're really switching from talking about why people should use double glazing in Sydney, because believe it or not, some people still think it's not a good idea. Why they should do this, why they should do that, and it now just becomes about how. Or how do I make these things work together, or how do I make it affordable? It's much more about the making it happen part than the why we need to do it part. And that's from our perspective, it's fantastic, because then you're just sitting down and going, we don't know in your case, but let's get started and we'll work it out.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Okay, so I think we're getting to pretty much the end tonight. Any sort of final words, Tamara? Anything you want to sort of wrap up about the houses we've seen, or the season 3 in general? Or
for season 3, I would love to say for everyone here tonight, thank you for coming. Everything that we do at the New Joneses is free to the public. Go online, watch it, share it. There's a range of different people. I would love everyone to go on and watch our single mum, Sophia. I find her episode is so engaging and inspiring, because on a low income, as I mentioned before, she wanted to build herself a home that she could afford to keep comfortable in. And so she built with no gas, using design principles like Dave Martin talked about, north facing, and hers is just such a brilliant case study of what's possible on a low income, and now she makes money from her house. It's so energy efficient that she gets money back on her bill. I wanted to make that point. I also wanted to say, I think in Victoria, I'm not sure what's happening in New South Wales, but they're banned gas in new homes, in new residential builds. So that's quite an exciting big development to show where this is moving. But I think I think the whole series, I'm thrilled to be able to have met all these inspiring people who are doing the home electrification and showing what's possible. One last thing, we drove around in an electric vehicle. We need electric vehicles. We need all the cars in the world to be electric, but we need half the cars. So there's so many areas that we need to make moves in. But I think getting started and making yourself a plan. I think it's really important to, as Saul Griffith says in his episode, prepare or plan to replace. So if you've got all these things already, we can't all go and throw out what we've got, but plan so that when your gas boiler explodes, you know what heat pump, hot water system you want to replace. When your gas stove carts it, you've already gone and done your planning. Because as I've experienced, when you go to people like a plumber or whoever, they're just going to go with what they know, which will most likely be another gas hot water system or another gas cooktop. Do your research so when it goes bung, you're ready to step up and replace that with the better technology that's available, which is going to save you money and save the planet, be better for your health, etc. So plan and prepare to replace.
Yeah, fantastic. And spot on about the replacing when needed. I suppose we're not talking about replace everything immediately. So yeah, spot on with that. What about season 4? I know season 3 is pretty fresh. Any plans for season 4?
I've got plans. My powder dry. Yes, we definitely think there's a lot more to do in this space. Like there are so many more wonderful stories out there of how people are doing this sort of stuff. But I will not. You'll have to keep follow the New Joneses. As I said, everything we do is free. Go online, sign up, because that's where you'll hear about the new stuff that we have coming out. And yeah, join the New Joneses and do the things. There's something for everyone wherever you are on the path. That's what I love about the New Joneses mission. It's showing everyone is doing, everyone everywhere. So many people are doing stuff. Get on the path wherever you are, and then take the next step and take the next step.
Great. Thanks, Tamara. We'll make sure we share the link to the New Joneses and also the Tick Off 10 list that you've created as well.
And thank you for organising, Jordan. It was such a pleasure to be involved.
No problem. Andy, what about you? Any final words?
Just a couple of things that popped into my head. In addition to the awesome resources that is on the New Joneses, the other thing that's relatively new is Renew, who are the organisation behind Sanctuary Magazine and Sustainable House Day, have recently released their Get Off Gas Toolkit.
Yeah.
And that is going to be, basically they've done a huge amount of work. And therefore, if you're going to get off gas, just leverage what they've already done because it's more efficient rather than working it out yourself from scratch. So that's available and free online through their website, which will be renew.org.au.
Yep.
And the other thing, for those of you madly passionately interested in efficient buildings and passive house buildings in particular, in 3 weekends time, I think it is, Saturday and Sunday, the 11th and 12th of November, it's International Passive House Day. Bunch of people who own these houses out of a sheer generosity open them up and let random strangers walk through them. You can find out about it through the Australian Passive House Association. You can just Google them, or International Passive House Day. We've got a bunch open, a few other people have a bunch open, different places around Sydney and other places too, but I'm assuming most people on the call live in Sydney. There's a few in Melbourne as well, so tomorrow can go look at some when she gets home.
Right.
But yeah, there is, what was your phrase about we can't be what we can't see?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Go walk into a passive house and then work out why it feels different. And then if you can't work it out, ring me and I'll tell you that it's because the air quality is better.
Love it. Thanks so much, Andy.
Every time.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, and thanks again, Tamara, as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Yep, and certainly share both the recording and all the links and resources that were mentioned here. I'll email those out early next week. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.
Everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Jordan.
Bye.
Bye.